service. Okay.
Okay, being at 10 o'clock, I will call the meeting to order. Adoption of the agenda, that the agenda for the October 13th.
Sorry, Betty, I just want to make sure that we're streaming here before we get rolling. So as I was mentioning as you were getting on the call, we don't have a clerk running the meeting, so it's me, and I'm a little new to some of the pieces here. So I think we're streaming now. So we can call the meeting to order now.
Okay, so I'd like to call the meeting to order and the adoption of the agenda, that the agenda for the October 13th, 2022 meeting of the Community Development Advisory Committee be adopted. Can I have someone move that? Alan, a seconder? Lisa? Is there any additions or anything else? Okay, anybody opposed? So that is carried. So any disclosure of pecuniary interest or in the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Adoption of the minutes. The minutes of the meeting held August 11th, 2022, that the minutes be adopted for the meeting of the Community Development Advisory Committee. Can I have someone to move and second? Lisa, a seconder. Robert, any questions about the about the minutes? Okay, anybody opposed? Moving forward, deputations and presentations, we don't have any. So reports of the report for the Community Development Advisory Committee, Frontenac Ambassador Program and Business Support Update. And this report is for information only. So I believe this is probably Richard or Debbie.
Yeah, I'll speak to this report, Madam Chair, if you don't mind. So we have been ever since we've had our service delivery review, we've been trying to find the sweet spot in terms of how we support businesses and the business community, and not duplicating services with places like Frontenac Business Services or the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Center, which serves a region out of Kingston. One of the things that we were nervous about was how much effort we were putting into visiting businesses and hearing about what their issues were and supporting them, which was great for those businesses. But there are other services out there that provide similar services. I don't know what's going on. Okay, apologies, everyone. I'm hearing that we're not streaming, so I don't know why. So I'm gonna have to restart this. Okay, I think we're streaming now.
Richard, as a failsafe, would it be best to record? Because then worst case, it can always be uploaded.
We are recording, yeah, but it's sort of a
Supposed to be streamed.
Yeah, and I think I'm hearing from different people different reactions. So just my apologies to everyone in the meeting. We were not. I was not given adequate training on the live stream function here. So we should be streaming as far as I can tell. So I'm just going to double check that on a different device, I guess, because the people who are telling me things, I don't believe them. So
My computer tells me it's being recorded and it's custom live streaming service. So
yeah, that's what my computer says too. So it's going to be a fun start to the meeting. You know, hopefully we can cut this part out, but just hold on for a second here. I'm just going to pull up Frontenac County here and then pull up the video. And then I'm going to, all right. And then this will be interesting. Okay, yeah, we're streaming.
It is on YouTube. I found it.
Yeah, okay. So my apologies, everyone. But just for insurance sake, I'm going to get you to start the meeting over, Betty.
Okay. So
I don't want the clerk to be mad at me for not doing a good job clerking and having our transparency out there. So
you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job.
Let's see how fast we can get through the first part of the agenda again, now that we had a practice run.
Okay, call the meeting to order. Adoption. The agenda of October 13th, meeting of the Community Development Advisory Committee be adopted. Do I have a mover and seconder? Alan, Lisa, anybody opposed? Okay, disclosures of pecuniary interests or the general nature thereof. Seeing none, moving on. Adoption that the minutes of the Community Development Advisory Committee meeting held August 11th, 2022 be adopted. Mover and seconder. Robert, Lisa, any discussion? Anybody opposed? Okay, we're going to our, we have no deputations or presentations, so we go on to item 6. A, and it's a Community Development Advisory Committee Frontenac Business Program and a business support update. Richard, can you give us an update, please?
Yes, and thank you everyone for your patience in terms of this. I just have been as I was saying, we did the Economic Development Service Delivery Review in December of 2020. And those recommendations were adopted by, sorry, that's just my door. If it closes, we'll be good. Those adoptions were, the recommendations of that report were adopted by County Council, and they were then implemented. We began to implement that. And one of the recommendations was that we move from providing direct services. So when we launched the Ambassador Program, we were visiting businesses one-on-one, hearing about their issues, working with them to resolve their issues and connect them to resources that are useful to them. We didn't provide business coaching necessarily, but we did provide a bit of a concierge service and seek out solutions to those businesses. It was recommended that we move away from providing direct business services, but as we attempted to do so over the course of this past year, we heard from both our partners that there was still a need for us to have a touch point with the business community and individual businesses in order to help them find the resources that they need, such as business coaching, loans provided by Frontenac Business Services, or services offered by the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Center. The real issue is that folks have a hard time navigating the support systems that are out there, and the county plays a good role in terms of helping connect or find the resources that are there, and we've already got that network of communications that happens on a regular basis. So we sort of went from here to planning to be here, and then we've kind of swung back here like a pendulum, trying to find the right balance of business support for our team to provide, while not using too much of our internal resources, while we focus on other pieces. So this report sort of speaks to some of our experiences this year. One of the strategies was to provide sector support. And so sector support was going to be through roundtables. However, the attendance was not significant at those roundtables outside of the agricultural sector roundtable, which we share with the city of Kingston. And then, so what we're going to do is go back to similar roundtable type discussions that we had virtually with businesses, but for any business, it's just going to be an open conversation and not limited to sector on a regular basis. And then one of the other pieces that we discovered it was that in the post-pandemic decline, a lot of businesses had some success through the pandemic, but customers, the business community at large seems very cynical or downtrodden, or just not feeling appreciated. And so one of the pieces that we've developed in order to support the vibrancy of the business community is a annual retreat, which is going to take place next week, along with some business awards that we would provide on an annual basis to support and celebrate those local businesses that are leading the way and setting the example for our region. And so we've outlined those the 5 different categories for business awards in the report, and included it here. The other piece that we did was we increased our communication. So we used to communicate about once or twice a month to the ambassador community, and we've moved into a shorter weekly update that provides a touch point and a reminder that we're here to the businesses, so that if there is a question, they have a reply they can hit really easily and follow up with us to connect them to the services that they're looking for. So that's where we're at. And I invite any questions about the content of this report or the status of how we provide support to businesses from the county perspective.
Okay, are there any comments, questions?
Richard, it's Rob. Were there certain sectors that, is it retail? Is it, what's the, and I guess the other, which sectors are you finding asking the questions, and what are their issues? Are they hiring issues, or are they financial issues, or a combination, or is there a theme, I guess, coming out of the pandemic? When the sector roundtables, we're geared towards our core sectors in our charter, which were food and beverage and tourism, essentially. And tourism makes up a big part of the sectors that we communicate with on a regular basis. We don't have strong communications with let's say some of the lighter manufacturing or trades sectors in our region at this stage, and we need to work on building more relationships in those sectors specifically. Does that answer your question, Rob? Yeah, and I was wondering, just with the current sectors, was there a principal issue that they were having? We hear a lot throughout the province that hiring is the big issue. We're down so many headcount coming out of the pandemic. Is that a theme? Reaching out to recruit people, or is it something else? Yes, we're hearing. We've been hearing all summer that finding good workers or people talent to stay around is an issue, and it looks like it's a challenge, across the province in multiple sectors. It's just we don't seem to have it as bad as in the States, but it still seems to be an issue for local businesses to recruit and retain staff. So they and they end up having to go out for multiple recruitments as a result.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions? I just have a comment. About a week ago, I was going through Perth in the evening, later in the evening, and the Tim Hortons was closed because they couldn't get enough employees. So, and I've heard that's happened to other Tim Hortons, which, seems kind of, but anyways, that's, I guess the way things are going is hiring is a big, big problem.
I think somebody worded it to me very well, and the largest group of population generational wise is set for retirement, and we didn't have enough people to replace those people. And I think that makes sense, and that is why you're seeing it throughout multiple industries and not just in one sector or another right now.
Okay, any further discussion? Great, thank you, Richard, great report. Okay, now then, the Open Farms 2022 final report, it's for information only. And I'm sorry, I'm working, my printer isn't hooked up to my computer anymore, so I have to do this manually. So I've got Richard and Debbie, so.
I can
Whoever's
talk to
setting up, Debbie? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So Open Farms took place in September this year, and I'll just roll through the report and highlight a few things for the committee. It was a multifaceted event. There was in-person events, there was farm experiences, farmers markets, there was community activities, the community hub and plowing match, which were connected this year with South Frontenac. There was education and then farm to table initiatives, and then the Open Farms harvest that took place on October 2nd in Kingston. So the farm visits continue to be the cornerstone of Open Farms. Through the follow-up survey that we sent out to farms, we just asked several questions of them, and the majority of the farms that completed the survey indicated that 75% of visitors that were engaged during that weekend were new visitors to their sites. So that's a really strong statement about who was visiting. And I know in talking to a couple of the farms in the distances, people were traveling. Like when I spoke to one of the farms in North Frontenac, they had several visitors from Kingston at the farm for the day. Advanced ticketing for all farms was new this year. So we started in advanced ticketing in August, and it was intended to be on sale until the week leading up to the event. We determined that we would continue to extend the ticketing just to allow for some additional tickets to be sold. We had multiple locations that were doing different experiences. The Open Farms Community Hub and Plowing Match was a new collaborative approach, and they saw approximately 700 visitors through the day on the Sunday, which was a great event. It exposed people to the plowing match, which was great too, and also people to the vendor space as well. The Frontenac Museum was open, and they reported 21 visitors through their site. There was a drive-in movie by the Verona Free Methodist Church that was held, and again, they indicated 20 individuals. The regional farmers markets across Frontenac County were held: Charbot Lake, the Frontenac Farmers Market, the market on Wolf Island, the Memorial Center Market, and the Kingston Public Market. So there was 5 different markets covering both days. Tourism Kingston was involved in the farm to table experiences at 2 restaurants, and that was later in September. So that was not the weekend at Open Farms, just based on the need for the restaurants to, looking at their timing and things like that. So they were looking to have the events on September 25th and the 27th. Both of those events sold out. Again, the importance of that was the farm to table piece. So the importance talking about bringing food from the farm and where it's produced and served. The Open Farms Harvest was held in Springer Market Square in City Hall at the City of Kingston on October 2nd in the afternoon. And there was 25 farms involved in that with local chefs and local chef Brad Long from Belong Shorebut Lake was involved in that event as well. And they offered demonstrations and food sampling and things like that. So again, event well received. Again, that farm to table approach. So continuing to move from not just visiting the farms, but showing that full circle of farm to table. So the ticketing being the first year for ticketing, last year there was tickets that were done for a couple of sites. This year it was the majority of the farms were ticketed and the experiences. So there was a couple of different ticketing systems that we explored when we were looking at how do we approach ticketing? What does that look like? We looked at a couple of different options, determined that conference style ticketing was the way to go so that anybody going into purchase ticketing could go to one location, purchase from multiple sites, and then would have one transaction at the end. So that was the importance of that piece. Perfect Mind, which is a recreation platform with the city of Kingston, was available through the city. So we determined to go to that path because there was no cost to use it as well. The system was in place, as well as with no cost for the ticketing system, it allowed the money to go directly to the farms. So a really important piece that there was no expense for the system, where a lot of the other systems, there was a cost per ticket. So just highlighting that. So again, the ticketing opened 4 weeks prior to the event, August 10th, and was planned to close September 6th. We kept it open until the 9th just to see some additional ticket sales. The ticketing piece was quite time consuming, both for our staff, but also for City of Kingston staff in multiple pieces, like setting up tickets, if there was tickets changing, when we had some of the farm events, we just wanted to make sure they were full and it wasn't like 1 or 2 people for the farms, just to be most efficient with their time as well. So there was some of those pieces that were back and forth and communication around that. Reviewing all the details within there to make sure we've got accurate information and we're not selling tickets for the wrong times and things like that was, just the accuracy when you spread that out across 8 farms and some of the farms had 10 events or things like that. There's a lot of detail to review in there. So lots of time with that. Communicating with participants when we had to do refunds or we needed to exchange tickets and things like that. So there was back and forth there as well. And then just if there was changes based on times and things like that, updating marketing materials. And then pulling reports to make sure that the farms knew who was coming to their farms, how many were visiting at certain times and things like that as well. Or for some of the farms that were, one of the farms that was serving food, having a dinner event, they just wanted to be able to communicate with those coming to their site to talk about any dietary restrictions or things like that. So also to talk about some of the details. So just making sure those pieces were in place. There was a lot of staff time and resources spent on some of those. And then the reconciliation of ticket sales and payment back to the farms as well. So there was a couple of comments that were received and I'm just flagging these in here and just highlighting that as well. The online ticketing to register, some participants didn't want to register to provide their personal information in order to purchase tickets. And that was just noted to us. So we're just flagging that in there. Some farms noted that they heard the ticketing system was a challenge to navigate, and then others heard that it was not difficult. So we're just flagging that in there as well. So, and then farms appreciated both the county and the city providing and managing the ticketing. So that was definitely another piece that was noted. It was something that they didn't have to manage. So just flagging that. Again, this year was a partnership with the County of Frontenac, South Frontenac Township, Tourism Kingston, and the City of Kingston this year. So, and staff from each organization, we met regularly, we collaborated on various parts of the event. South Frontenac took the lead on the plowing match and the community hub, and the City of Kingston took the lead on the open farms harvest. And then we took the lead on the other pieces and the marketing, and then each organization amplified the messaging across their channels. So that was a very helpful piece when all organizations are amplifying the message, because we all have different audiences too. One benefit this year, there was no restrictions from public health as far as COVID, so we were able to navigate through that. There was still definitely work that we did with public health through the farms, and we were just a connection to make sure that their event process was followed on the farms. And then just some overall comments just about open farms that I've just included here. So the event changes every year. So I've been involved for 1 year, but I've attended multiple years, and the event definitely changes and requires substantial staffing resources. Each year, we attempted to move away from logistics, on-site logistics this year, but moved into ticketing. So the time that was spent there kind of moved from one type of support to a different type of support. Another comment that we heard, the name Open Farms implies that the event is free for people to attend and you can just drop in. That was something that we heard later, like after the event was done, from a couple of people that were visiting farms. So something just to note and consider as we move forward, that it's not, we're not offering drop-in if it's a ticketed piece, which I think is really important. And just circling back to the ticketed piece, we heard that from the farms, and that was the reason that we went to ticketing, is the farms felt that inviting people to their site, it was a controlled environment. They could offer a better experience because they knew how many were coming to their site. They could set up different experiences, and that piece was really important to the farms. So it wasn't just us saying, we're going to ticket this year. It was a conversation, and the farms were suggesting that to us. The marketing, as noted, there was a couple of comments that it wasn't as visible as previous years. But then there was other comments that we saw lots of information about open farms. Some comments included social media was not as visible, that hosting both the ticketed farm events and free drop-in events, because there was 2 farms that held drop-in events, might have been a little bit confusing to the user. So again, a change in how the event structure is sometimes causes a bit of confusion, or just a further clarity on how we structure some of the information on the website is really important. There were a lot of events taking place during Open Farms Weekend. Lots of events happening regionally. There were several events happening in Kingston as well. So lots happening there. I think a really great opportunity this year, there was farms from across all 4 townships in Frontenac County, as well as within the city of Kingston boundaries. So those were just nice highlights to include. The insurance for some farms was expensive and a challenge to have the county listed as an additional insured. And some farms have noted to us that it may become a barrier to participate in the future. So just noting that within our report as well. And then just something to highlight here, we noted that the analytics for our openfarms.ca for our webpage saw 4 times the traffic to the site that it has seen in the same time frame previous years. So all of our marketing materials that went out, the signs, the social media, the posters, the postcards, everything included openfarms.ca. So we were throwing to, sorry, my terminology in communications world, we were throwing to the website. So everything was directed to that spot. So that was obviously, we could see that through the analytics that using the one URL was very helpful to see the increased traffic to the site. And then just to wrap up a couple of those pieces. So the future options, the group is going to continue to meet. We're going to meet and kind of do a larger debrief. We've had a couple of debriefs. We did a survey with the farms, but meeting to talk about what are the next steps and what does that look like from a resource perspective, from a partnership perspective, and just reviewing some of the goals and the items within the about the Open Farms event, just to determine some of the next steps for future Open Farms. Richard, I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything else in there. Or no? Happy to take questions if there are any.
Okay, questions, discussion? Alan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Debbie, were the farms that were ticketed, did they feel they had, were they full, I suppose, if you want to call it that, or did they have lots of people get to their farms?
So there was various opinions around that. I know we spoke to a couple and they indicated they were very happy with the turnout. There was a couple of farms that it was new. They were newly participating in the event. There was other farms that have participated in the event for 5 years. So again, some farms felt there could have been more people visiting. Some farms felt that they had a great turnout to we did have like certain farms had a maximum number of tickets. So I'll just speak to Back 40 Cheese to their dinner was on Sunday, and they had a maximum of 22 people for the dinner. And they, you know, each of the events had a maximum number that could attend the ticketed piece, and they sold that out about a week and a half in advance of open farms. And we're happy with that. Again, some of their tours were sold out, and then some of them we moved people into other ones just to be most efficient with their time. So they had a minimum number for each of their tours. So it was, you know, some of the farms said, okay, I have a minimum of 4, I have a minimum of 8 people per tour. And then we would just adjust and move people around to other tours, with obviously working with the people that were attending and had purchased the tickets to work through that.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yes.
Anyone else? Lisa?
Was the moving people around part time consuming? Because that's something that would be worth dropping in previous or in upcoming years, and just trying to advertise those events as still having additional spots left instead.
Thank you, Lisa, for the question. Yes, it was definitely a resource heavy part of the ticketing piece, because there was the communication from the farm initially, because they had their minimum number, and then just confirming, do you want to start to move people, and then communicating with the ticket holder back to the city. So I was the person reaching out to the people that had purchased back to the city. They would change it back to the ticket holder, and then letting the farms know in the summary of each of them. So yes, it was time consuming. And just another piece, a lesson learned as we dug into ticketing this year. So a lesson learned on multiple levels for sure.
Well, I guess I don't. So the ticketing, did they find that a lot of people that had been there in previous years stopped by with no tickets and weren't allowed in? And was there any reactions to that type of interaction?
So interestingly enough, we did hear from a couple of farms that people did drop by. There was people that didn't purchase tickets in advance, and the farms did not turn them away. They sold tickets at the door. We tried to not encourage people to just drop by, because there was definitely some locations that couldn't host more than, like Back 40, for example, within their cheese location can only hold so many people. So we didn't encourage people to go to the site to purchase day of, but definitely some people did. And they were all accommodated. So that I've heard about. I haven't heard about anybody that was turned away.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other questions, discussion? No? Okay, well, thank you very much, Debbie. Great report, and we appreciate it. So now moving on, we have the Visit Frontenac Tourism Brand Expansion Project update. And that's way down. Try and find this. Oops. And I have Debbie on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Betty. So this project, this is an update on the Visit Frontenac Tourism Brand Expansion Project. So this was project comes following the approval of the 5-year destination development plan. This project, there was an RFP circulated in the summer months for a consultant to work with on this project. And in September, there was a consultant hired. So Taunt Consulting and B for B, B for Brand, sorry, I'll not shorten the name of the, was the two consultants working together. So this was the foundational piece for the destination development plan, to look at what the Visit Frontenac tourism brand should look like. Not speaking about necessarily the logo, but talking about the storytelling, talking about the visuals. What does that look like for Frontenac County as we move into the tourism side? So as we talked about this is a foundational piece as we move into expanding on that, working on a website, working on social media as we talk to our visitors and are attracting people to come to Frontenac County. So they're just kind of rolling through the status of where this project is at, because this is a really fast moving project. It has to be completed by the end of this year. It is one that is funded. It was funded through the Ontario Highlands Tourism Association through a funding opportunity through them. So it's completely funded, but has to be completed by the end of this year. So a very fast turnaround time. We met with the consultants in September. We had a kickoff meeting with them to talk about the deliverables and the objectives for the project, also the timelines, the engagement around it, and things like that. So talking about what those outcomes are. So the objectives for the project, again, just referring back to the report here, to examine the perceptions of Frontenac's existing brand from a tourism perspective. Really important piece. How do we strengthen that as a destination development initiative, particularly establishing and fostering connections with visitors or prospective visitors? So really important piece there. Establishing a clear community-driven brand narrative and storytelling strategy. So another really important piece. What does it look like? What are our visuals telling us? What is that story we want people to carry with us or tell their friends about Frontenac County after they visited here? And then providing tools and resources and recommendations that support sustainable implementation findings from the activities. So to establish that identified brand as well. And then to create the successful brand will have a sustainable long-term economic impact. So the engagement activities, there was last week and this week, the last couple of weeks, I've been quite busy with this group, working on various ways to connect with the community, to get into different areas of the community. So there was a paint night held on Wolf Island with the Wolf Island Gallery, and it was just encouraging people to paint and share their stories of Frontenac through a canvas. Community walk and talk was available in Sydenham. Unfortunately, we didn't have anybody come out, but we ended up, I met with the consultants during that time because we were all there, and we continued to talk about parts of the project and messaging we had heard. North Frontenac Township bus tour was held last week, so we went around and visited. It was a great opportunity for the consultants as well to visit North Frontenac as well, to talk to visitors on the bus and to talk to the business owners in that area, and to hear more about, what does Frontenac mean to you. There's an online survey that's open. We did extend it, so it's open until noon on Fridays. So just an opportunity for visitors, businesses, residents to complete the survey. The consultants are also completing one-on-one interviews with various stakeholders. And they've got a series of questions that they're going through and asking. And then yesterday there was also an online workshop that was held, and it was an interesting format that they hosted the workshop in. It was inviting, who would you invite to your dinner party, but talking about your dinner party being in Frontenac and what's that ideal dinner party guest, and how do you talk about Frontenac. So it was a really interesting, engaging way to bring people together to think about and to draw different information from them. So some really interesting engagement activities that were happening, trying to get some different information from people and make sure that we're on the right path. So following the engagement, the consultants are working on a summary review, and then we will, in November, we'll meet with them to hear the review, talk about the deliverables later in October, and then in November, there will be draft tourism brand guidelines to be developed. And there'll be an opportunity to engage back with the community just to make sure that what we've heard and what we're sharing is accurate. So, so that's the project is on the Engage Frontenac website. You can visit it there to see more details. There's a link here as well. And happy to answer any more questions. Richard, I'm not sure if you had anything else you wanted to add there.
Just to highlight that we've had a few questions in a few of our conversations with staff and community members, and they wondered if this is going to change at all, and this isn't going anywhere in terms of things. What we're working on is building out the conversations around this. We might have some creative design approaches using these elements that are laid out in here. But really, as Debbie was saying, this is about approach to photography, approach to videography, types of language and tone in website writing, social media writing, having sort of certain types of stories that we like to tell, we want to tell, and like get it in talking about all of those things with our various partners in tourism, so that we're all sort of singing the same song, or at least, you know, from the same album. And so that's sort of the approach that we're going from brand. A lot of times people focus on logos and straight up design situation when we talk about brand, but brand is really the feeling that someone has, and the relationship they have with that feeling about something. And so that's what we're working, that's what the heavy work that we're doing this fall is on. And so I just wanted to make that pretty clear, because we're not planning to go and build new giant signs with a new logo that we just put up a few years ago. So we're not going to do that. So that's where we're at for right now. So I invite any questions for Debbie or myself on this.
Questions? No one has any questions or comments or anything? Okay. I was just going to bring it up again. The stargazing pad, the North Frontenac Dark Sky Preserve that we had a festival, and we brought in people from Montreal, Oshawa, all kinds of areas. It was a Friday night, was an amazing night, and if you talk about photographers and video photographers, there was a lot there. So so that is an asset that is growing, and some of our events this year were well over 200 people coming in. Unfortunately, they aren't staying because of lack of overnight accommodations, but it is bringing people into North Frontenac, so it's growing.
We have been one of the main themes in the engagement that we've heard so far, and this is, you know, before we've seen the full analysis from the consultants, is that clear skies and dark skies is a big piece of what makes, when we imagine Frontenac, we imagine a campfire or under the stars kind of situation, often in or other kinds of situations. So so thank you, Betty, for your comments.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, give me a second. Now, we have no communications, other business. I believe, Richard, you had something you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I just have I have two things actually, and so the first is I'd like to introduce our new community development officer, On Good. He's joined us from. Just stay on mute for a second. We're in the same room, so you get that echo. And then so he's joined us for the fall to support us on a few projects. So I'll just have him introduce himself and let you know what he's up to, and if you have any questions for him, and then I'll provide you with my final update for today.
Okay, On Good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet everybody on call here. It's a pleasure to be part of the team. It's a small team with Richard and Debbie in economic development. So just to kind of follow up on what Richard was discussing, working on some business development projects to enhance traffic as well as small business around the KNP Trail. So the first project would be I'm working on forming a partnership with local educational institutions, Queen's St. Lawrence College, and seeing if we can attract a younger demographic to the trail to enhance that traffic and enhance small business along the trail. Right now, the demographic is around 30 to 50 active trail goers. So, bringing in a new reoccurring source of students and, tying it into the colleges and the universities' wellness programs or physical programs could be a win-win. So just working on some proposals for that and seeing if we can get some traction on that front. The second thing I've been working on is building an immigration pipeline from the GTA. So I was, Richard knows this, but I do have some existing relationships with different newcomer centers in Toronto and surrounding regions. So they land in Toronto and the GTA, and the resources are there to support them, but affordable housing is not there. Commercial rents are higher, wages are lower, and there's incredible competition for them to secure quality employment as their foreign qualifications are often not recognized. So placing them here, would be, I think, a win-win, and working on, individuals that are more prone to starting businesses, who have arrived in Canada on a business visa, higher propensity to start businesses, can contribute pretty quickly to the area and bolster economic development. So working on getting a bus tour, different bus tours down and having them visualize the region, as well as possibly working with Richard, possibly having some employers show up who are in the local Frontenac region as well. And the third initiative is I'm working on a special supplement piece to see if the KNP Trail and Frontenac County can be featured in a national newspaper. I know, it's been featured in the Kingstonian and other more regional papers, but seeing if we can promote the trail, maybe as part of a bigger story, and have it featured nationally, and see if we can build some traction, build some traffic, and just further contribute towards the region. So those are the main, and then on top of that, actually seeing local businesses, getting their feedback. I know Debbie touched on this earlier, and working hand in hand with Debbie and Richard to enhance our current Frontenac app, seeing if we can turn that into something unique and create some value for business owners in the region. So yeah.
Good. Has anyone got any questions? Inquiries or anything? Brian, good? No? Okay, well, thank you for your work and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Okay, Richard? There was one other thing you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, sorry, I had to find the mute button there. Okay, so I just wanted to thank the committee for its time. This will be the last potentially ever Community Development Advisory Committee. As you are aware, the Community Development Advisory Committee is being combined with the Planning Advisory Committee in the next term of council, which starts in about a month's time. And at that time, the agendas so we're at the moment, we're recruiting for that committee, actually. So if you would like to continue in your service, or someone else who would like to be part of that combined committee, where you're looking at both land use planning issues and economic development issues and projects, we would encourage your participation in that committee and your solicitation of others who might be interested to participate. But your time and your input and your suggestions over the last 4 years have been immensely valuable for us. We often come away from a meeting being like, "Oh, we really didn't think of that," or we really appreciate the questions or perspectives brought. And so thank you for everything that you've given our team and the county as a result.
Thank you very much, Richard, and we've appreciated working with you. At least I'm sure everyone has. And Debbie, as she came on to join with us, I want to make a couple of things, and then I would like you to know that there is a motel with 2 acres for sale in Alpha, and it would be great to see that renovated and turned it back into something that's viable. So, so other than that, I would like to thank everybody that's been on the committee. I appreciate everybody and have enjoyed spending my time with you. Thank you. Is there anything else? Seeing nothing, we have no next meeting to, where's the application on the Frontenac County website, I assume? Okay, if anybody's interested in joining that, we'll be on the Frontenac County website. And other than that, can I have someone move for adjournment? Okay, Robert and Lisa were the first, sorry, okay, Marlene, we'll go with Marlene this time. And I thank everybody and hope to meet everybody in the future personally. Okay,
Thanks,
bye
Debbie.
now.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.